Hi everybody! Dan here from The Road Chose Me with another episode. Today we're cutting access hatches in the side of the camper, we're securely mounting MAXTRAX to the back of this thing, and we're finishing off a whole bunch of things on the outside that I'm calling small final touches. Here we go, the build of the Dream Overland camper continues. One of the reasons I don't run wide tyres is because I hate when a vehicle throws mud on itself. Once you live out of it for months or years, you just get dirty every time you touch it, and that gets old really fast. So the first thing I'm going to do is install some guard flare extensions. Now that Jeep sell the Wrangler with 35-inch tyres, they themselves have to sell these guard flare extensions. So I picked these up from a dealer. They're about $50 for the set, and they match perfectly to the Rubicon fender flares. So the first thing I needed to do was drill out all those plastic rivets holding in the original fender, and then the kit comes with new rivets that I put in to hold it all in place. And I don't have the right tool to install these things, so I'm just using a block of wood and a pair of vice grips. It works pretty well, but you can see from the missing skin on my knuckles, it definitely has some room for improvement. In any case, I can pull them tight, they're kind of like regular old rivets, and then you just cut off the little excess bit and you're good to go. As well as the fender flare extensions, I'm also installing these mud flaps, and they tie in pretty well to these flare extensions. These are just aftermarket ones. I think they're from WeatherTech, designed for the JL Rubicon. So these have a few screws to install, and I played around for a while whether I wanted them in front or behind of the flare extensions. In any case, these should really prevent mud and rocks being thrown at the front wall of the camper and keep mud off those front doors. In the end, the flare extensions and the mud flaps combined look like they're always supposed to be there, so I'm really happy with this result, and hopefully it'll keep my clothes clean a little longer. The next thing to finish off here is inside the rear fender wells, and you can see we've spent a lot of time masking everything up, and now Michael's painting it with 3M textured heavy duty paint. And the frame here that's white is already powder coated, so we're not really worried about rust. We just want it to be super durable and to kind of disappear and be black. So it's partially about looks and partially about making it durable. You can see here the finished product looks great. Because this is inside the rear fender well, we know stones and mud are going to get flicked around in here endlessly. And we kind of want to fill the gap between the camper and the original Jeep frame. The Jeep had a big plastic liner in here, which doesn't fit and we can't use. So we bought some conveyor belt rubber, and we're cutting it into strips and to the right length, and we're going to screw it into the frame to fill in that gap, hopefully just to stop it getting packed in with mud and rocks. Again, this is slightly about protecting things and slightly about just looking good. You can see the finished product here while I was installing the suspension. Yeah, things are a little bit out of order, but I promise I am showing you everything. The next thing we needed to do is mount a set of MAXTRAX on the back wall of the campers. And Michael made up these awesome cardboard templates so we could see what made the most sense. Could we put them vertical? Could we put them underneath on the departure cut? And after a lot of back and forward, we settled on about this position. I left a big gap above mine, thinking that I might mount something else there later. So once we liked where the cardboard was, we decided to put the real article in the spot just to see what we thought. I think that'll work quite well. Before drilling any holes in the camper, I measure everything about 19 times to make sure I'm in the right spot. I use a guide to make sure I drill nice and square, and then I enlarge the hole to the exact size that I need. Same thing on the inside, and while I'm doing that, Michael's preparing the MAXTRAX pins and all of the backing plates that we'll use. As always, we're going to use our favourite adhesive to glue on these aluminum spreader plates to help spread out the load on the face sheet of the composite panel. So I mask up all the way around each spreader plate, and then as usual, get to work scuffing. Then we have to activate both surfaces. Then we can use our adhesive and assemble everything, the spreader plates, the MAXTRAX pins, and nylock nuts on the back. We do this at all four corners, and then we can bring our MAXTRAX over and mount them up. So I've been carrying these things on my last couple of expeditions, and they definitely get me out of trouble when I need them. On the beaches in Australia, when there's really nothing to winch off, deep sand I find is where these MaxTrax really shine, and I do think it is worth carrying a set. I think I will always have them, just like I'll always have a winch. The great thing about the official mounting pins is they accept a padlock, so we decide to padlock the 2 diagonal corners just to make sure nobody can walk off with these MaxTrax. I think they're pretty sturdy, they're going to stay there for a long time. And a few fun finishing touches because we can. Michael and I install a Yokohama banner across the windshield. We put the original EcoDiesel badge back on that I kept from the Jeep tub, and I put a diesel sticker next to the filler. I really don't want someone putting gas in this thing. That would be a bad day. We're not certain what we'll do with the floor just yet, so we cut out a piece of nice durable carpet and we'll use that for now. Removing the plastic sheet sure feels like a milestone to finishing things off, and Michael installs the window trim. These are Arctic Tern windows, and his preference is to install them upside down so that the shield can be at the bottom and the bug net comes down from the top. That way you can sleep with the blind partially closed, but it's closed from the bottom, not from the top. I really like this idea, so I had him install them just like his. I felt like this step was too satisfying not to get on film, so I'll stop talking so you can hear how satisfying it is. Because I'm showing the Jeep at a bunch of overland shows this summer, I decided to install some decals on the side to showcase the expeditions that I've completed in the past. It certainly looks like a lot of the world when you see it in large format like this, though I think I better keep working on the blank parts of the map. You can see we sprayed the Jeep with some soapy water and the back of each sticker, and then it's just a patience game of slowly working out all the air bubbles. On such a big flat surface like this, it's actually pretty straightforward, and I've done this a few times, so I'm confident now. Will these decals stay on forever? Nah, I doubt it. And the final job to finish off the exterior, I've decided to install some access hatches so I can get things in and out of the camper without having to carry them through the main door. I'm thinking camping chairs, I'm thinking access to the shower, and a few things like that. So these access hatches are made by Arctic Tern, which is the same company that made the windows and the main door, and that means they're keyed the same, which makes it really convenient to use them. They put a lot of focus on making them weather sealed, so there's no chance rain will get in these. Again, I measure about 19 times to make sure I'm in the right spot before we go ahead and cut this huge hole in the side of the camper. Michael has this template from when he cut the holes for the windows, and by moving it around, we can make it work to our needs. The router works really well. It cuts through the outer face sheet of the composite panel, and then you use it again and it'll cut through the inner face sheet. Here's a quick little test with it just held in place with tape. You can see it looks really perfect in this spot, and I think it's going to work great. I decided to have them fold down so that when they're open, the lid is completely out of the way and it's easier to see into the tunnel rather than have the lid go up and kind of be in your eye line. From here, it's the same as always. I scuff the composite surfaces, we apply our adhesive, and then we can install it permanently into the hatch. Scrape off the excess adhesive, pull off the extra tape, and we're completely finished. This is permanently bonded into the composite structure. I'm really happy with how these turned out, and it actually looks like they were always supposed to be there. It'll depend exactly what I build on the interior, but the goal is to have this volume reach into some sort of cabinet or storage cubby. It's no secret I plan to take this thing to colder parts of the planet, and so I installed this insulated cover, which Arctic Tern make specifically for the door. This should really help keep the heat in, and it's really nifty. You can fold parts of it down so you can still see out or have it all the way up for maximum insulation. So here we go, guys. This is the very first road test. I mean, I've driven it like, 3 minutes here, 3 minutes there, but I'm now on a road that has a speed limit of 55, so this is it. See how it drives, see how it sounds. It actually is really echoey in here, but that'll just be because it's empty. I'm sure it'll change once we get the interior in. I'm noticing immediately my steering wheel is not even close to straight. I'm gonna guess that's because of the suspension lift, the changes we made. So I need to shorten the drag link, or I need to go get a wheel alignment, or both. It would be nice to do that because I assume the computer's gonna freak out in a minute about my very much non-centered steering wheel. But otherwise, so far so good. Very smooth, very quiet, no rattles, no clunks. We don't know for certain, but we're assuming it still weighs a little bit less than it did when it rolled out of the factory. By now I've added a fair bit of heavy stuff. The roof rack, the wheels and tires are heavier than stock, the front bumper, the winch, the skid plate, all of that stuff has increased the weight. But of course in the rear, it is decreased in weight. So the camper weighs less than all of the sheet metal that we took away. The tailgate, the rear doors, all of that steel. So I think overall the vehicle is probably still slightly less than it was when it was stock. And of course with the spare on the roof, the center of gravity right now is probably a bit strange. It will actually drive better when the rear's got some weight on it, I think. Even just looking at it, the way it sits on the ground, it sits tail high right now, which is a good thing. It gives us a bit of margin to add some weight, by the time we add a fridge and stuff like that. I'm also watching my speed. I've got GPS Speedo up just to see how accurate. I reprogrammed the computer for the new tire size, and I want to make sure it's as close as I can get it, because then my fuel calculations will be accurate and all that kind of stuff. I might actually just reset the fuel economy right now, just for fun. We're about to get on a freeway, so we'll see. It's only going to be, a half an hour drive, but we'll see how it goes for fuel usage, just because why not? Here we are on the freeway. I'm doing 63 miles an hour. The speedo is within 1 mile an hour. And it's definitely a little bit more wind noise than than is normal. That makes sense though, with the amount of camper that we've added up top and the spare and everything. There's no whistling, which is really nice. We were wondering about that. I can definitely hear the wind moving around the camper though, like more than it used to when the Jeep was stock. This is good fun. This is kind of surreal. I'm a little bit overwhelmed trying to take care of everything. Watching what's happening behind me. I just had to accelerate hard to get in front of a truck as I was merging. And of course the engine had no trouble with that, which is really good. And the computer did just freak out. It says service electronic stability control, and it's come up with a light on the dash. And that's simply because the steering wheel is not straight, thanks to the new suspension. I'm just keeping my eyes on the fuel economy for fun. I mean, right now it's doing like 33 miles a gallon. So, and I'm sitting on like 60 miles an hour. So no problem at all with fuel economy. I do have a tailwind and I am going downhill. It's a Jeep after all, but everything seems to work perfectly fine as expected. Watching Michael's on the road in front of me is really nice. I can see how it behaves on the road. I can see that all of his lights are perfect. He looks really solid and really planted on the road. I'd be really curious to see a video of mine or to have him drive it and me follow him. So all in all, very, very successful test drive. This is encouraging. I'm going to use it every day now for the next few days. We're going to hit some twisties, we're going to hit some gravel, see how it goes. Everything checking out well so far. So there we go, guys. That brings us to the end of the finishing touches on the outside of the camper. As always, I need to say a big thanks to my supporters on Patreon. They make all of this possible. Not only are we talking about where I'm taking this thing next year, but also we're talking about the design of the pop-up roof, all of those systems, the interior, everything is slowly getting designed and coming together, and I'm discussing all of that with my supporters over on Patreon right now. So for early access and all of that information, check out the link, jump over to Patreon. Next time, I'm going to answer a bunch of the most common questions I'm getting about the camper, certain design decisions, certain trade-offs, why things were done the way they were done. So if you have questions, if you're interested to know why things are the way they are, fire away with your question and I'll make sure I get to them in the next episode. So until then, thanks very much for watching, have fun out there, and maybe I'll bump into you on the road.